Actually pretty upset at that time, but you know, took a minute and kind of calmed down. So I go in and I basically say to them, hey, if that's the case, like if he's not available, let me fight Makhachev in, let's say, July or August. But they're like, no, we have to save Makhachev for October for the Abu Dhabi card. I was like, okay, and I don't really want to wait till October, but I still want to fight for the belt, right? So I say, okay, why don't I get him in October then? And basically the way they put it is like, I'm not the #1 contender is the way they put it. They said there's people ahead of me, and they specifically pointed out to Dustin Poirier, and at that point I was about to flip a table. You know, I was about to take Justin Gaethje's advice. You know, he said if Dariush doesn't get the title shot, we riot, and I was very close to that.
Beneil Dariush, the UFC lightweight contender, had to adjust his plans. He was supposed to face former champion Charles Oliveira at UFC 288 in Newark next month. However, Oliveira had to pull out a few weeks before the event. The fight was rescheduled for UFC 289 in Vancouver a month later, but the new date was not finalized without some negotiation between Dariush and the UFC. Despite being ranked number 4 in the division, many fans and experts have called for Dariush to receive a title shot. His upcoming fight with Oliveira may help him solidify his position in the division. Chael Sonnen thinks Adesanya is the GOAT of middleweight. Having witnessed Israel Adesanya's triumphant recapture of his middleweight title at UFC 287, Chael Sonnen is now convinced that the last stylebender is the GOAT of the middleweight division. I believe that he is. Let's hear it from Sonnen himself.
Did you really call Israel Adesanya the greatest middleweight of all time?
Yes, I believe that he is. I believe that
more so than Anderson Silva?
Yeah, you know, those guys fought, so that's where it's a hard time for me. When two guys fight and then you argue that the guy that lost is better, and then you try to get smart with it and go, well, but it wasn't in their prime. It's just weird. You know, there's a respect that you have to pay.
Sonnen confidently stated on a recent episode of the MMA Hour, Adesanya, who is now a 2-time UFC champion and boasts a 13-1 record in the UFC's 185-pound division, defended his belt 5 times during his first title reign and sealed his latest victory with a second-round knockout of Alex Pereira. While Anderson Silva remains Adesanya's main rival in the historical middleweight rankings, Sonnen still places Adesanya above Silva due to their 2019 matchup, where Adesanya emerged victorious against the older fighter. The UFC middleweight champion has reportedly requested a speedy return to the octagon, and according to Dana White, Adesanya could make his comeback before the end of the summer.
Israel Adesanya wants to fight non-stop, constantly, and he wants to fight everybody. So, yeah, we're working on that, and he'll fight again soon, maybe before the end of the summer.
Do you think Adesanya has already surpassed Silva? Or does he still have a long way to go? Let us know in the comments. Max Holloway wants to fight the Korean Zombie. Max Holloway has set his sights not only on the featherweight belt but also on a particular fighter in the division, veteran Chung Sung-young. I would love that fight.
Korean Zombie has mentioned a couple times that he would like to fight you.
Brother.
For one of his former...
Korean Zombie, that's the only guys from the... That is the only guy in my time with the older guys that I didn't get to fight. I would love that fight.
Despite being a highly experienced fighter, the Korean Zombie is one of the few featherweights that Holloway has not yet fought.
That's one of the guys I've been growing up and watching. I'm kind of tripping out how the hell we didn't fight yet. How did we not fight? You know, and if that's one of the guys, then that's one of the guys. I'd love to fight and share the octagon with him. He's one of the OGs that I didn't get to fight yet. You know, that was like we came up in the same era and we didn't fight each other. So if that's it, that's it.
What video?
Following his recent unanimous decision win over Arnold Allen in the main event of UFC Fight Night, Holloway believes that a matchup against Jung could be a logical next step for him. Although his ultimate goal is to reclaim the UFC featherweight title, Holloway remains unfazed by his 0-3 record against the current champion. Leon Edwards declines fight against Colby Covington for next UFC pay-per-view event in London. Leon Edwards will not be defending his UFC welterweight championship against Colby Covington when the promotion returns to England. The UFC president Dana White recently revealed that they are working on the next Leon Edwards fight, but have nothing settled yet.
I believe he said that he's not going to be fighting in July in London. He's possibly looking at Abu Dhabi. Is that still Colby, or is there other potential options on the table?
Yeah, I don't know about Abu Dhabi, but we'll see. We don't know what's going to happen with that. That's all. We're working on all that shit right now.
The promotion was planning to return to London, where it had held one of its most recent pay-per-view events, UFC 286, in March of 2022. Edwards had won his second straight fight against Usman via a majority decision at the event. Given the success of the promotion's recent events, White wanted to head to London again in the near future. During his post-fight press conference after UFC 287, White spoke highly of the fans in London, stating, "The fans over there are amazing. We're supposed to have a fight night in July. I want it to be a pay-per-view. There's a lot of internal that needs to be worked out, and I'm working on it." While Edwards is not going to be fighting Covington in London, it is still unclear who he will be fighting next. The promotion is yet to announce Edwards' next opponent, but there are several top contenders in the division who could be next in line for a shot at the welterweight title. Jon Jones vs. Stipe in Madison Square Garden. According to Dana White, Jon Jones' recent hints about his first UFC heavyweight title defense against Stipe Miocic will indeed occur in his home state of New York. During Saturday's UFC event, Jones tweeted that he is eager to schedule a showdown with Miocic, and there are indications that the fight could potentially take place at Madison Square Garden in New York City during the autumn months. White has confirmed that the UFC is targeting November, which is when the organization typically holds an annual event at the famed venue.
I know everything's good, and hopefully we have a fight with him and Stipe very soon.
You kind of made it sound like it'll be Madison Square Garden. Is that kind of the
Who
thought?
did?
John.
That's where we'd like to do it, yeah.
Jones has created drama and concern among his fans about a possible retirement after the fight with Stipe Miocic, which would mean saying goodbye to what many consider the best fighter in MMA history. Dana White and Michael Bisping on Jake Paul vs. Nate Diaz fight. With the Jake Paul vs. Nate Diaz fight scheduled, many people have been giving predictions and opinions on the fight, but this is not the case for Dana White, who refused to talk about it at all.
I don't want to on other people's fights, like Oscar De La Huerta. Yeah, no, I don't want to talk about the fight. It's just, there's no, first of all, neither guy is my guy. There's just no need for me to comment on it or whatever. I wish them the best. I hope they make $1 zillion.
On the other hand, Michael Bisping does have some words for Jake Paul, whom he accuses of only fighting older and smaller men. "I'm not hating on Jake Paul, but this is the pattern, this is the flow."
Listen, I'm not hating on Jake Paul, but this is the pattern, this is the flow. It's an almost 40 non-boxer. It's a guy that's a submission specialist with decent hands, and he's much smaller. Listen, Diaz is very tall. He's not a small man by any stretch of the imagination, but he did fight the majority of his career as a lightweight, okay? So it is going to be very interesting to see how this goes down.
That's all for today's video. If you want to know the latest UFC news, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, and click the like button so you don't miss any details about the upcoming fights. Thanks for watching. See you soon.